Hi everyone, welcome back to Julia's story. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. Morning at Voss Tower runs on polished shoes and swallowed panic. The lobby glows like a church built for money. I sit behind the marble desk that pretends to be a shoreline, headset warm against my ear, smile ready for people who believe their calendars are laws. My name tag says Lena. It does not say the rest. Spanish at home, English for rent, French for the doors that try to stay shut. The doors to the executive bank open and Aiden Voss steps out with a stack of printed emails, edges neat enough to threaten skin. His tie is steady. His mouth is not. Behind him, a small herd of assistants pretends the floor is more interesting than the spectacle approaching my desk. He stops just shy of the black line in the marble that everyone else treats like a moat. He sets the stack down in front of me with a thud that sings. The lobby quiets by one breath. Translate this and I will pay your salary, he says, and he smiles the way men smile when they are sure the room loves them. I look at the stack. French first. Spanish second. Korean headers I will respect and forward because knowing what you cannot do is a language of its own. The top email in French mentions a Kamite minuet, then a clause about rumeurs favorables with brackets of numbers meant to look like math and smell like bleach. In Spanish, the same line reads softer, as if gossip were a charity. Below that, an English thread is pasted without care. It avoids the words entirely and replaces them with gentle talk about momentum. Momentum is how people hide knives in rooms full of glass. I lift the first page and let my voice go calm. The French message says an agreement will be amended at midnight. It says favorable rumors are a lever. It says teams should coordinate with the communications lead to make sure the street believes what the board needs it to believe. No one moves. This is the trick. Say the quiet thing and keep your tone like water. People will let it enter because it does not splash. Aiden's jaw tightens, a ripple under silk. He tries to live in the smile anyway. And in Spanish he says, light, as if the problem is my accent and not the knife in his hands. In Spanish it says the same thing, I say. Only kinder. That is how you make theft sound like patience. A muscle flickers in his cheek. An assistant drops a pen and does not bend to get it. The security guard by the turnstiles turns down the volume on the morning radio without meaning to. I slide the next page free. Embedded in the French footer is a clause number that does not appear anywhere in the English deck Aiden carried through his town hall last week. Clause 21b. Chaîne de rumeurs. I do not look at him when I read it out loud. My voice belongs to the room now. There is an addendum, I say. It authorizes a shift in control if market sentiment can be proven favorable. It allows rumor to be counted as signal if it is seeded by approved partners. The Spanish version directs invoices to a foundation with a softer name. The assistant who dropped the pen inhales. Somewhere above us a light flickers once, embarrassed to be honest. Aiden keeps his expression where the cameras will like it. The lobby may be a mirror, but it is not loyal. Do you know what you are reading? He says. Softer now. I do, I say. I am reading your weather. He starts to speak. I do not let him. My grandmother taught me that when men believe they own a room, the first thing they steal is the pause. I fill it before he can. Here is my translation, I say, and I do not ask permission to stand. My voice carries because marble wants drama and I am tired of being small. English first. A rumor is not a signal. Silence is not consent. If you intend to buy the city with whispers, you should be brave enough to say so in a language everyone hears. In French, un rumeur n'est pas un signal. Le silence n'est pas un consentement. Si vous achetez la ville avec de chacotements, ayez au moins le courage de le dire à haute voix. In Spanish, un rumor no es una señal. El silencio no es consentimiento. Si piensan comprar la ciudad con susurros, tengan el valor de decirlo en voz alta. The marble drinks it. The assistants forget to breathe. Aiden stares at me the way a winter lake stares at a stone. Cold. Impressed against its will. Angry because it moved. Someone up on the mezzanine lifts a phone. Another follows. The guard who loves old soul songs whispers careful, Lena under his breath, and then pretends he did not. Aiden taps the top page, steady as a metronome. Who told you to editorialize? He asks. You did, I say, and I nod at the stack. Translate this. You asked for meaning, not just words. The corner of his mouth does a thing he will not admit to later. He lowers his voice until it belongs only to the air between us. You want my salary, he says, with that crisp edge to remind me what this building costs. I want my rate, I say. I accept wire transfers, not promises. And I want you to stop pretending rumor is a harmless toy. Laughter ripples from the mezzanine like a chorus trying to be polite. Aiden looks up and half the phones fall, late to shame. He looks back at me and the smile is gone now, replaced by something clean and dangerous. Upstairs, he says. Just that. A lift signal with a word attached. An assistant appears at my left like a ghost who believes in manners. The security guard looks at me as if the elevator is a ship and we are choosing weather. I take the stack, because it is mine now, and stand. My name tag shines a little harder than it should. As we cross the lobby, a woman I recognize from the 40th floor whispers that was Art. Another mouth shapes brave. The turnstiles blink green like they want to belong to the right side of the story. In the elevator, I can feel the phones outside like a hive starting. My pocket buzzes. Aunt Mari. I do not check it. The doors slide shut. The floor number clicks once, twice, 3 times. The car rises through money and glass and polite secrets. On 23, the doors open a crack and Theo Park slips in, tie loose, smile wrong. Chief strategy, aged inexpensive rebellion. He smells like citrus and an argument. He looks at the pages in my hands and then at my face as if deciding which is more fun to break. You made quite a morning, he says. I made a sentence behave, I say. He grins and then drags the grin across his teeth until it looks thoughtful. The car hums. The numbers climb. He leans closer, voice soft enough to pass for kindness. Play nice upstairs and you keep your desk, Lena. I stare at the stainless steel and see him watching himself. It is useful information. The doors open on 48. The hallway is colder here. The art is more serious about its own importance. As we step out, a woman in white and gold turns from the glass with a smile she has taught to move like a blade. Evangeline Rowe. Fiancé. Brand architect. Her heels speak the language of red carpets and secret exits. So you are the translator, she says, and her eyes slide to Aiden in a way that makes the air pay attention. She takes one step toward me, then another, and the carpet does not dare to squeak. Her perfume is soft and expensive and bored. She stops close enough that I can count the flecks in her irises and decides where to put the knife. Say something beautiful in French, she says. For the cameras that are accidentally on. My pocket buzzes again. Not Aunt Mari. A link with no name. The preview shows a paused frame of the lobby, my mouth open on the word rumor, Aiden's profile sharp, the mezzanine phones raised like a small forest of silver. The light over the boardroom door flicks from red to green. And from deeper inside the floor, a voice calls my name as if it has just discovered a use for it that I will not like. The 48th floor carries a colder kind of silence, the kind that makes glass feel superior. The boardroom lights bloom awake as if the room has been waiting to see me misstep. Aiden crosses first, shoulders squared like a man who trusts the geometry of his spine. Theo drifts behind us with a grin he treats like a spare weapon. Evangeline keeps pace at my elbow without touching, an orbit of gold and winter. Aiden gestures to the chair at the end of the long table, not the head, not the foot, the seat where translators sit when rooms would rather pretend they are machines. He takes the top spot and sets his palms on the wood the way some men touch the shoulder of a horse they plan to ride into a wall. Lena, he says, and for the first time he gets my name right. I owe you an apology. It lands without a crash because his voice knows how to carry expensive loads. He glances at the glass where the city pretends to belong to us and then back to me. What I did in the lobby was crude. I made a show out of labor. This office will wire your rate and a bonus by close of day. And you will not be punished for telling a truth this room has been dodging. It is a good speech. It does not heal. I nod with the quiet that cancels nothing. Theo looks bored. Evangeline looks amused. She leans in like a cat and sets a clean phone at my place, screen unlocked, a wall of unread threads in 3 languages waiting like a trap with flowers. Since you are fluent, she says, sweet as stone, perhaps you can help us understand what we have already written. I scroll. French first. Comite minuet typed twice and then replaced with midnight working group by someone who believes words should not scare investors. Rumeurs favorables dressed up as sentiment and then as community confidence. A calendar invite in Spanish that mentions a private dinner after the vote, with a sugar line about keeping the circle tight. The phone hums under my fingertip. A new alert opens like a mouth. My lobby moment has already been clipped clean and subtitled in all the wrong ways. The caption reads, when the receptionist outlaws spin. The count climbs. In a corner of the video, a reflection shows Theo on the mezzanine with his head tipped, memorizing the outline of my mouth as if he plans to use it later. I lift my eyes and translate without perfume. Your French thread says rumor is a lever not to be named in English. It instructs team leads to seed it and invoice a foundation with a kind name. The Spanish thread wishes everyone a calm vote and warns that if the city does not clap on cue, the board will invent a louder rhythm. Theo clicks his pen once, that little metallic sin. The board will do what keeps the lights on, he says, and because I am the only woman at the table who earns less than a sky share, it is meant as a warning. I keep going. The archive coughs up a hotel bill in French for a private salon with a river view 3 nights ago. There is a note in the margin. Language support requested. The same evening in English shows a calendar block on Aiden's schedule. Dinner with Evangeline, donor relations. The times rhyme and do not overlap. The lie has manners. Which one am I meant to translate? I ask. The French invoice that got paid or the English dinner that took a picture for the press? Evangeline smiles with her mouth and not her eyes. Her ring gathers and throws light like a thief. Translate what will keep us from bleeding in public, she says. Aiden holds her gaze, then releases it the way a man lays down a weapon he will pick up later. He turns to me. Translate both, he says. So I do. I read the French invoice line by line and then the English calendar as if they are a duet. I do not raise my voice when the facts disagree. I let the verbs put their own hands around the nouns. Aiden watches as if I am a live fire he would like to master without burns. This is not what I ordered, he says, and the sentence scratches the air on its way out, tired of being used by important men. Theo leans back and studies the ceiling, which has never told the truth to anyone. He taps the pen again and the sound crawls. He is bored the way a cat is bored while it bats a bird against a wall. The door whispers and the head of legal slides in with a printout he clearly hoped to hand to someone else. He glances at me, recalculates, and places it on the table like a priest laying out a cloth. 2 columns, French and English, clause by clause. 21B is on the left with all its teeth and on the right with its gums trimmed to pink. Why are they different, I ask. Because French law requires us to be frank, he says. English understands implication. Evangeline sips air. So you see our bind, she murmurs, and turns the blade in her smile. We need to move forward without teaching the city to panic. Aiden's phone buzzes. He ignores it. My pocket buzzes twice. Aunt Mari, then the same unknown link that has become a keyhole to the worst room. I do not open it. I let it burn. We set up in a smaller office to work the mess because the big room has too many ghosts. Aiden drags a chair beside mine. Not behind, not above, beside. Theo posts himself in the doorway like a guard who shoots first and edits later. Evangeline lounges where the light loves her, fingers on her phone, thumbs sending weather to people who sell umbrellas. Aiden asks me to draft a statement in 3 tongues that kills the rumor tool without admitting it ever existed. Half truth, half surgery. A bad habit with a good tailor. I begin. Words line up. The easy ones arrive first, like tired horses glad to be useful one more time. The hard ones wait, watching, the way pride waits for courage to drop its guard. Lena, Aiden says, quiet. Off record. Have I cheated on my vows? I look at him because the largest thing we do for people is sometimes simply to look. His eyes hold storm and math. His tie is steady. His mouth is worse than honest. It is tired. No, I say. Not in the only language that counts. But you have been unfaithful to the truth. He exhales as if someone had loosened a hidden knot in his ribs with a clean finger. Thank you, he says. It is an odd sentence in that room. It sounds like the first brick set on a straight line. Theo snorts. You two can test verbs later, he says. His gaze cuts to Evangeline with an intimacy that does not belong to the ring on her hand. She does not flinch. She adjusts a cuff. Somewhere a dog would have growled. My phone vibrates again, insistence hardening into a drum. I slide it face down and keep working. The bilingual draft turns the rumor gear into an antique, never used, a curiosity donated to a museum where school children will frown at the plaque. Legal returns with another page and the smell of panic he hides with peppermint. The Midnight Committee moved the vote forward, he says. 11, not 12. They are staging a press gaggle at the river. If we do not own the story by 10, the city will. Evangeline rises without hurry. Hair smooth. Smile loaded. She glides to the door and pins Theo with a look that says tonight we will not pretend to be strangers in the part of the hotel where mirrors stay polite. We can still make romance out of this, she says. The ring finds the light. She is very good at her job. Aiden weighs a response and sets it down unspoken. He turns to me instead. You are coming upstairs permanently, he says. Title to be decided. Money fixed today. He says it with a tone that drives the decision like a nail rather than begs for my nod. I do not smile. I accept the facts and leave the praise in its box. A notification washes my phone again and again until even the table learns the rhythm. I tap it open to quiet the noise. The lobby clip has been stitched to a new frame. The caption says translate this, and the video that follows is not me. It is a dark hallway filmed in a hurry, voices half caught. A woman laughs in French. A man answers in English and says the word rumor as if it is a pet. The camera swings and a ring flashes. The date stamp grins because it knows it is bait. I hold the phone steady. I turn it so Aiden can see without touching. Color leaves his face without asking permission. Evangeline watches the reflection in the glass and fixes one hair that was not out of place. Theo lowers his pen. For the first time all morning he looks awake. Down the hall, the smaller conference room light flips from green to red, as if someone has just stepped in and locked a door. The office goes quiet enough to hear a wire transfer cross a river. Aiden says my name, a single syllable that hangs in the air like a key above a lock. And on the other side of the glass, a shadow pauses outside our door, hand lifted, knuckles an inch from the wood, ready to turn the next part of the story into a room. The knock is polite. The intent is not. The door swings and Theo fills the frame with that grin he polishes on other people's nerves. We need the translator, he says, as if he is borrowing a stapler. Aiden's jaw hardens. Evangeline smooths a non-existent wrinkle at her cuff. I take the stack and follow Theo because sometimes the shortest way to the truth is through a man who thinks he owns the hallway. He steers me to the executive lift instead of the public bank. The doors close. Marble wipes the sound clean. He hits 42. Then his thumb drops to a small unmarked button that was never meant for me to see. The car hums. Then hiccups. Then stops. Between floors, he says, cheerful as a storm. No cameras. No counsel. Only weather. He stands close enough for Citrus and whiskey to try their best. His voice lowers into a register men use when they package damage as mercy. Play nice upstairs and you get to keep your desk, Lena. Translate what we hand you. Leave the missing verbs alone. Take the raise. Smile. Let the board turn a page without learning how to read. I lean my shoulder into stainless steel and watch my face steady in the dull reflection. I do not nod. I do not argue. I let silence ask the question men hate most. Theo sighs like a disappointed teacher. He slips a flat folder from inside his jacket and taps it against his palm. There are 2 contracts, he says. You already know that part. One in English that keeps its hands clean. One in French that understands what a clause is for. In the French addendum, there is language that can move control without a shareholder ever raising a hand. He opens the folder. The top page is dense and polite. I read the line in my head and feel the air change. Upon expiration or disturbance, any public act of affection initiated by the founder toward his partner shall be deemed mutual consent to convert the agreement into full partnership for governance. Proof may include images and broadcast. Dogs would have growled. Marble pretends to be deaf. You hit a lever inside a kiss, I say. He shrugs. The market cries for stories. We hand it a picture and call it democracy. The French need frankness. The English respect suggestion. The city respects a frame. He slides another page free. A riverfront schedule. 11. Not midnight. Press at 10. A line for remarks that reads love wins in a font so soft it bruises to look at. The elevator purrs to life and climbs 2 feet like a teasing hand. Then it sticks again. Theo does not reach for the panel. He reaches for my name, which he enjoys mispronouncing. You are good, Lena. Your lobby moment was art. Keep your art in the back room and we will make sure your aunt never has to choose between rent and heat. Step onto a stage at the river and you will find out how fast a city can eat the woman it begged to speak. I hold out my hand. He blinks, surprised, then gives me the folder because arrogance drips, not pours. The paper is warm from his coat. My palms cool it. I flip to the second half. Side-by-side columns. On the left, French. Tout act public de-affection. On the right, English. A gesture of unity. On the left, convert into full partnership. On the right, welcome stability. On the left, proof may include images. On the right, nothing. He watches me read. This is the only intimacy men like him respect. Another page. A bill in French for a private salon at the Riverside Hotel 4 nights ago. A margin note that asks the comms lead to arrange discreet coverage. A matching calendar block in English for donor relations that was posted to Aiden's feed with a photo of Evangeline in a white dress. Times nearly touch. If you place them on a transparent sheet and hold them to the light, the lies kiss. The car jolts an inch and sighs. My phone buzzes in my pocket like a heart that refuses to be lied to. I do not look. Theo does and smiles. Do not open the clip right now, he says. It will only make the math petty. What matters is the lever. If he kisses her at the river and the camera drinks it, control moves and everyone sleeps. You will translate the romance. The city will clap. The board will stop sharpening its knives on rumor and try something softer. The car shudders and then descends fast enough to make my stomach check in. We stop between floors again. Theo taps the rail. Impatient now. Do not burn your life over a clause you cannot change, he says. You can keep a job and a story. Or you can be a moment that trends and then gets chewed into a cautionary tale about girls from the lobby who did not know when to stop talking. The doors crack 2 inches and hold. Through the slice of hallway, I catch a sliver of a framed photo that hangs on 43. Evangeline laughing beside a river. Theo's reflection warps in the glass. His tie is crooked. A smear of lipstick clings to the silk like a secret that never planned to be faithful. I shift the folder and he sees where my eyes went. For the first time, the grin slips. Careful, he says, soft and mean. Some translations get people killed. The intercom pops. A text says something apologetic about a censor and calls me ma'am without sarcasm. The car jerks and climbs. The doors open on 42. Light is colder here. The carpet went to school for intimidation. Theo steps out and blocks the doors with a hand, palm easy, smile back in place like a man adjusting his mask in a mirror. Last time, Lena. Play nice. I walk past him because some decisions are small and feel large only to people who confuse doors with gods. The corridor leads to a compact conference room where the head of legal is already flipping papers with the guilty energy of a priest reciting an old sin. I drop the folder on the table and lay the 2 versions side by side until even the carpet understands. Aiden arrives on that quiet step a man learns when he is trying not to explode. Evangeline follows with perfume that never gets clutter on it. She takes one look at the columns and goes very still the way a ballerina does before she springs into a jump that will break her feet. It is not enforceable here, legal says, voice high. It would be a fight. They put it in as a deterrent. We always plan to, he stops, unable to find a verb that does not hand me the knife. To lie, I say. Evangeline smiles as if I just complimented her coat. The room is tired of that smile and will never admit it. My phone buzzes again. The unknown link. I open it now because the only thing worse than the truth is letting someone else time the reveal. A riverside bar in soft light. Theo at the far end, his tie loosened, his mouth tilted. Evangeline leaning in on a laugh that belongs in a room with doors. The camera swings in a clumsy arc and catches the mirror. Behind them, a man walks past who looks like Aiden from the cut of his shoulder and the way the room clears an inch on either side. The date stamp is 2 nights ago. The caption is single-minded. Translate this. I hold the screen out. Aiden takes it without letting his fingers touch mine. His body flinches so slightly that only men who have taught their faces not to tell on them would notice. He lifts his eyes to Evangeline. She does not blink. She is a professional, and some professions are made of marble. Theo lingers in the doorway like a stain that cannot be mopped. He watches Aiden watch the clip. He watches me watch him. He lets the silence bloom, because silence is where men like him harvest power. Aiden sets the phone down as if he has learned not to drop weapons on glass. He speaks to legal first because that is the muscle memory of this floor. Kill the clause, he says. Draft it now in both languages. If the board wants stories, they can pay for books that do not require other people's mouths as proof. Legal nods too fast. Papers scramble. Pens turn into small swords and pretend they know how to win a war. Evangeline moves toward me and stops at a distance that reads as intimacy on camera. Her voice lowers to a purr designed for microphones and men who love to feel chosen. You are excellent, Lena. Translate our statement tonight and we can all go home with our faces intact. I look at her ring and think about all the ways metal lies. I look at Theo and think about all the ways men practice loyalty like a sport. Then I look at Aiden. The apology he gave me earlier sits between his ribs like a trapped bird deciding whether to live. My phone hums again. A new message from a number I know belongs to the Riverside Hotel. A subject line in French. Votre salon est prêt. Your salon is ready. 11. The conference room light flips from green to red on its own, as if a hand the room trusts just touched the switch from the hallway. Someone on the other side of the glass clears a throat I recognize from downstairs, from the moment a stack of paper hit marble and Adair tried to make me smaller. Aiden looks toward the door. It opens. The door opens on a junior assistant with a headset and brave eyes. Car is downstairs, he says. Voice steady. Riverside Hotel. Private salon at 11. Comms asked for language support. He looks at me when he says language. Aiden looks at me after. The call arrives on his phone with a vibration that feels like an order. He pockets it and nods toward the elevators. Come with me, Lena. 48 drops to ground like a swallowed truth. Outside, the air has that wet shine the city wears when it wants to look expensive. The car smells like leather and urgency. Aiden sits forward, elbows on knees, a posture that refuses to admit fear. My phone lights in my palm like a tiny fire I cannot afford to drop. Aunt Mari texts one line that steadies my spine. If you cannot say it with your mouth, translate with your feet. The Riverside Hotel knows how to smile at trouble. The lobby holds low light and very clean glass. At the bar, ice breathes in shallow clinks. We take a corner table that has learned to keep secrets. Aiden sets his phone between us the way men set a weapon down when they are trying to do the right thing. He says it before I ask. I have never cheated on my vows. Not once. Not with Evangeline. Not with anyone. His voice is iron wrapped in cloth. It sounds like a man choosing to be smaller than his power for the first time in a long time. I believe him because verbs fit his eyes. It does not save him from every other sin. The phone buzzes with a voice note. French. A woman's tone, warm and flat at once, the sound certain women perfect when they are paid to walk you through a fire while taking inventory of your smile. Je veux que la rue comprenne l'amour comme un vote, she says. Fates le geste. Le reste suivra. I want the street to understand love as a vote, I translate. Make the gesture. The rest will follow. Aiden's mouth tightens. Another note. Firmer now. Le baiser à l'écran cementi le contrôle, and then a lower laugh that is not quite kind. The kiss on camera cements control. He flinches like the word kiss has suddenly learned how to bite. The next clip is half strategy and half bedroom, lines tugged back and forth between a script and a sigh. There is a second laugh under it, masculine, roughened by drink. The acoustics throw me, then resolve into something unpleasantly familiar. Theo. Aiden's fingers flatten on the table. The bar light climbs his ring finger and decides not to stay. He breathes once, then speaks like a man who has decided to lose a piece rather than the game. Translate all of it, he says. Not just for me. I keep my voice clear. The note talks about the board's hunger, the city's appetite, the timing of 11. It says what legal tried to phrase as a gesture of unity in English and an act of affection in French. It says proof may include images. It replaces consent with momentum like swapping a lock for a softer word. The air warms at my neck. I do not turn until the glass behind us admits a thin reflection and the scent of citrus arrives without a menu. Theo leans on the bar with the patience of a man who has already penciled in his triumph. He orders a whiskey in perfect English and speaks my name like it was trimmed to be gripped. Lena. He pulls a stool without asking if it belongs to anyone and angles his body to read both our faces at once. We are all friends here, he says, which is to say they are afraid of not being in on the plot. Aiden does not look at him. Theo looks at me. His smile would be kind if it did not keep count. You understand the stakes, Lena. If you keep translating for the wrong audience, the building will teach you about gravity. I tilt the phone so the voice note can keep speaking in the soft murder we call strategy. Theo's fingers drum the bar. He hears his own laugh threaded under the French like a stain and does not bother to deny it. "You have a future upstairs," he says. "You can keep your aunt's lights on. Take the rays. Leave the verbs alone. Let the city enjoy a pretty picture at 11 and go home feeling safe." Aiden lifts his eyes and the room registers the weather change. He has the face of a man who can build a dam without moving from his chair. He puts his hand flat on the wood and says two words that sound like he has finally found the first honest tool on the table. "No." Theo rolls his glass along his palm like a coin. He says the line he has been saving for the part of the evening where people start to think structurally. "The rumor tool dies tonight anyway. The vote shifts no matter what. We can let the city pretend love did it, or we can let it watch lawyers do it. Which sells a calmer market?" Evangeline arrives on a wind that smells like clean money. She is white and gold and winter at once. Her ring throws little crashes of light onto every glass within reach. She takes the space beside Aiden and makes it perform intimacy with a lift of her chin. "We need to control the frame," she tells him as if we are not here. She turns to me and her voice picks a silk thread. "You look tired, Lena. This has been a long day for the floor. We will finish the statement upstairs." "Thank you." Her eyes say leave. Her hand says stay. The ring says choose correctly. Another voice note lands. A different woman. Younger. Nervous. The French is softer, edges rounded by a school that taught pleasing as a skill. "Nous publierons la vidéo avec 2 heures," she whispers. "Le timing va server l'histoire." "We will publish the video at 10, I translate. The timing will serve the story." Evangeline's pupils widen a fraction. Theo's smile crooks. Aiden says nothing. He looks at the phone like it is a pocket knife, and we are already bleeding. I forward the notes to a secure folder I have not told anyone about. I open a new message to myself with a subject line that tastes like metal. 11. Kiss equals consent. 2 languages. Backup. I hit send. Theo notices. His voice drops until it belongs only to my corner of the bar. "You are building your own insurance," he says. "Smart. That will keep you safe if you do not step on the stage." I drink water because thirst is the oldest trap and I refuse to pay for it with my mouth. The hotel manager appears with a smile he would rather spend elsewhere and informs Aiden that the private salon is ready. Doors at 10:50. The deck overlooks the river. The light does lovely things to people who want to be forgiven. We stand. Evangeline touches Aiden's sleeve and lets her hand slide away like a practiced goodbye. It is not one. Theo pays for the round with a card that has never been declined and tosses a number on the bar with his eyes. Aiden does not take it. The corridor to the private salon holds a different air. Carpets hush footsteps to a reverent sin. A bellboy pushes a cart of champagne and does not look at our faces at all. We walk past a mirror that has learned to keep secrets and a gilt table where a spare bouquet looks like someone's apology ran late. At the door, a comms girl checks a tablet and brightens when she recognizes me from the clip that is now living several lives online. "We loaded remarks for 3 languages," she chirps. "The teleprompter will switch on your cue." The kiss lands after "thank you for believing." She says it without flinching. She thinks she is in show business, not surgery. Aiden stares at the glass like it might answer for him. Theo adjusts his tie with a flick that rearranges his grin. Evangeline's ring lifts a small star and sets it back down on the carpet. I feel the weight of all the words I have learned and decide which ones will not betray me. The door opens on the salon. It has the same river view as the lies. Lights low and flattering. A stage the size of a living room. A lectern checked for height. A teleprompter asleep behind a wink of black glass. A camera nested in a hedge of ferns like a pet that bites. From the shadows near the tech board a voice I recognize floats out, playful, bored, soaked in confidence. The timer is set. Feed goes wide at 10. We will keep their mic open long enough to catch the gratitude kiss. It is the voice from the first note. The woman who taught men how to be brave about stealing with better nouns. I step toward the prompter and catch my reflection beside the sleeping script, my face thin and stubborn, my mouth learning how to hold a room without begging it to listen. I think of Aunt Mari's kettle, of the lobby guard's careful Lena, of the woman upstairs who wants beautiful words for ugly tools. The tech reheats a makeshift line into his headset. If the bride hesitates, cut to crowd. If the groom misses, loop the clip. Bride. Groom. I taste the mislabel like a bruise and feel my stomach steady against it. Aiden lifts his hand toward the lectern. The prompter blinks awake. The first line scrolls up in English. Thank you for believing in us. The second line arrives in French. Merci de croire en notre histoire. The third in Spanish. Gracias por creer en nuestra historia. Then a fourth line, tucked small at the bottom like a dare hiding under a dress. Kiss now. Hold 3 beats. Evangeline's fingers tighten on her ring. Theo rocks onto his heels. The camera red light pricks on like a tiny unforgiving eye. The comms girl points to the mic, happy in her work. I hear my voice say no before I feel my mouth shape it. The room shifts. The tech frowns. The comms girl blinks. Theo's smile gains teeth. Evangeline turns her head very slightly as if aligning with the camera that will never betray her. Aiden looks at me and something in his face changes color, like a signal switching from weather to road. The hotel door behind us clicks once, the kind of sound a lock makes when a hand that pays the bills decides it is time. And a familiar laugh drifts in from the corridor, followed by the faint buzz of a live phone pointed at the room, frame already set to catch a kiss that is supposed to change the market and finish me. The laugh in the corridor belonged to a man who loves to sell endings. A phone slid around the door in a steady hand, lens red, already streaming to a city that treats rumor like breakfast. The comms girl lifted her finger. 3, 2, 1. The prompter woke with its sugar script. Thank you for believing in us. Merci de croire en notre histoire. Gracias por creer en nuestra historia. Then the line that had teeth. Kiss now. Hold 3 beats. I stepped to the lectern and placed both palms on wood worn smooth by other people's lies. The mic tasted like metal. The camera waited like a pet that bites. No, I said. Sound cracked through the salon, small at first, then tall. The tech frowned at his board. The comms girl blinked twice and glanced at Theo. He smiled as if he had invented light. Evangeline turned 1 degree toward her best side. Aiden looked only at me, a stillness that felt like weight rather than threat. I pushed the prompter remote to sleep and let silence do its job. The city on the other end of that lens leaned closer. Rooms can lean when they want to eat you or when they want to learn. I gambled for the second. You asked for a story, I said. In English first, slow and clean. Here is the story. A rumor is not a signal. Consent is not a photo. You do not get to move a vote with a kiss. Murmurs. A cough that sounded like a dropped glass. I switched to French without taking breath. Voici l'histoire. Un rumeur n'est pas un signal. Un baiser ne quitte pas le consentement. Then Spanish that felt like home. Aquí está la historia. Un rumor no es una señal. Un beso no compra consentimiento. The lens flared. Someone in the corridor cursed under breath. Theo tilted his head and made a chopping motion to the tech the way men do when they want to cut a woman without leaving bruises. The tech hesitated, eyes jumping to the junior assistant with the headset. Brave eyes. He shook his head half a centimeter. Not yet. Evangeline glided to the edge of the frame. Her smile had a temperature. She reached the lectern and set a fingertip near mine without touching. Thank you, Lena, she purred for the city. We all need grace tonight. She looked at me, not the lens, and whispered with velvet blades. "Do not bleed on my carpet." Aiden's voice carried from one pace behind me. "Let her finish." He did not touch the mic. He did not put a hand on my shoulder to make it look like we were a wholesome idea. He just said the sentence, and it landed like a small iron weight. I nodded to the junior assistant. He moved like a runner listening for a gun. I tapped my phone awake and found the file the building dreaded. 2 columns. French on the left, where the verbs keep their teeth. English on the right, where the nouns pretend to be soft. Clause 21b in both faces, side by side like twins that learned different morals. "Put this on the screen," I told the room. "In 3 languages. Do not crop." The comms girl color drained. Theo laughed. "Sugar gone." He signaled again. "Kill the feed." The tech swallowed. The junior assistant lifted a thumb toward me that only I could see. Brave eyes, steady hand. The screen behind the stage crackled and then burned white. The city exhaled into my ear through the mic as if distance could fog my glass. I kept going, voice level. The French version says any public act of affection can be counted as consent to transfer control. It lists images and broadcast as proof. The English version replaces consent with unity. It deletes proof entirely. That is not translation. That is theft. Phones rose in the salon, a forest of glass. Some friendly, some hungry. A woman in the second row lowered hers and watched with her mouth shut for the first time all week. She will matter later. For now, she was a still point in a moving room. Evangeline kept smiling. She is a professional. Her ring threw light, bright and bored. She reached for the mic with the grace of a surgeon. I slid it 6 inches left and kept talking. In Spanish now for the people who had been told to wait their turn. Dos versions del mismo papel no pueden mentir de maneras distintas y llamarlo estrategia. If you have to change languages to hide harm, maybe the harm is the point. Theo stepped forward, that charming gait he uses when he is about to burn something pretty and blame the weather. He raised a soothing palm. "Friends," he began, as if the word belonged to him. The screen behind us flickered. Then it obeyed a better master. The 2 columns bloomed side by side. On the left, the claws with its blade. On the right, the claws with its perfume. The room inhaled. Somewhere deep in the hotel, a power strip gave a nervous hiss. Aiden's jaw tightened and then released. He turned to the camera and did not ask to be forgiven. He said one line a human would say. "We were wrong to write this. We end it now." Security shifted in the shadows like a storm choosing a route. The host from somewhere offstage mouthed rap with eyes that were used to winning. The comms girl fixed her headset and began to speak to someone who was not in this room. A producer, a legal team, a market hungry for mercies. Too late. I felt Aunt Mari in my spine. "Translate with your feet." I moved out from behind the lectern and onto the small carpet in front of the stage, the space where presenters pretend to be real. I kept the mic low and my voice honest. At 10, you plan to publish a clip that would make a kiss look like a vote. At 11, you plan to ask this city to call it governance. It is 9:58. I am asking you to learn a new word. No. Theo surged. The tech flinched. Evangeline's smile thinned to its core. She stepped between me and the camera and tilted her chin to claim the frame. "Do not ruin what we can still salvage," she murmured. She meant her brand. She meant the ring. She did not mean me. Aiden reached, stopped, remembered, dropped his hand. He spoke to legal, who was not here. "Kill it and publish the correction," he said toward the air. "Both languages. Tonight." The junior assistant wiped his palm on his jacket and punched a key I could not see. The screen behind us sharpened until even cheap seats could read the verbs. The room made a sound I had never heard in a ballroom. Not applause. Not booing. A sound that happens when people find out the floor under them is not wood but water. Security finally moved. A hand came for my elbow. Not rough. Trained. Intent wrong. I spun modestly and freed the joint like a dancer refusing a lift. Theo reached for the prompter remote, stabbing buttons like a man crushing a bug that refuses to die. The script blinked back on with its sugar and its command. Kiss now. Hold 3 beats. I looked straight into the lens that thought it owned the night. English first, because that is the coin most of them spend. I will not kiss for your market. I will not translate harm into poetry. My pocket vibrated. A new message from the account that had clipped me in the lobby. A single line. Stream mirrored. City watching. The tech saw it too. His eyes went wide and then fierce. He fed the 2 columns not just to the room but to the city. Phones burst in people's hands like seeds. The comms girl whispered into her mic, voice shaking. We have lost it. Evangeline's smile died and left something honest on her face. It was not regret. It was calculation giving up and letting the woman under it breathe for 1 second. She leaned in so only I could hear. If you take him down, the board will eat you first. I thought of the lobby guard turning down his radio, of the junior assistant with brave eyes, of Aunt Mari's kettle, of my own mouth the first time it chose a clean sentence over a safe one. I lifted the mic. The salon door burst wider. A surge of phones and bodies pushed the threshold like a tide testing a wall. The manager shouted. The tech swore. The feed stayed live. The clock over the bar coughed and turned to 10. And from the corridor, clear as a bell you do not want to hear, a producer's voice rang out to someone sprinting with a case. Cut the power. Now. The producer's shout cracked the air. Cut the power. Now. The lights blinked, the mic hiccuped, the screen dimmed, and the room thought it could erase what it had already learned. It could not. Phones lifted like a small forest and lit their own night. The junior assistant with brave eyes yanked a cable from a backup brick and fed the screen a last lungful. The 2 clauses held a beat longer, teeth and perfume side by side. Then the hotel went dark enough to finally tell the truth. I spoke without a mic, and the city still heard because mouths had become transmitters. A hand brushed my sleeve. Not rough. Protective. Aiden. Do not stop, he said, low, and it landed like an oath that had been waiting for a throat. Security surged. Theo tried to smile and found it had teeth. Evangeline drifted to the lens that had learned to love her and discovered for once it loved text more. The junior assistant waved me toward a side door with the desperation of a person who has decided to be brave in public. I took it. Heat, hallway, service stairs, truth. Comms yelled down the corridor. The feed mirrored itself beyond their reach. Night split into sirens and links. The clip of the 2 clauses nested together like twin knives multiplied until even people with weak signal could read it. Aunt Mari texted a single word that felt like a hand between my shoulder blades. Forward. We landed in the street, breath making steam, a city's appetite trailing us like stray weather. Aiden's car found us as if it had learned my stride. We did not go home. We went to a kitchen that knows how to forgive. Aunt Mari had the kettle on and a towel over her shoulder like armor. She pushed a chipped mug into my hand and set a plate of something warm in front of Aiden with the resigned grace of a woman feeding a storm she did not order. My phone shivered with a message that would push the night into morning. Noor, the friend who studies code by day and doom scrolls by night, had stitched every receipt I forwarded into a thread so clean it could cut marble. 2 columns in every slide. Time stamps. The invoice that breathed river air. The calendar square with a smile that had learned to sell silence. The line that translated a kiss into control. Her caption read like a scalpel. 1 version for the market, 1 for the mirror. Pick. The thread detonated at 4. The platform tried to throttle it and failed. People who never read past the first paragraph read past the sixth. A union account pinned it. A group chat of night nurses passed it with coffee. A woman on the bus at dawn traced the verbs with a finger and whispered no. At 8, the 48th floor smelled like paper and rain. The boardroom had been reset to clean. New water. New pens. Old faces that had slept badly. The chair cleared his throat as if his own voice might negotiate the weather. Counsel stacked folders nobody wanted to touch. Evangeline arrived in gray silk and restraint. Theo poured himself into a chair and sent messages with his eyes. Aiden stood beside me, not behind, not ahead. He nodded once. My cue. I put the two versions on the wall, not as accusation, as translation. French on the left, English on the right. I read the verbs out loud so the room could not lie to itself later. In French, consent. In English, unity. In French, images and broadcast. In English, silence. The room listened because denial had become expensive. Theo went first, smooth as a paved lie. The market needs calm, he said. This addendum was a seatbelt we never planned to buckle. Let us retire it with dignity and preserve the architecture. I translated his sentence into the only language that mattered. You rode a blade and promised not to use it until someone filmed you. The room flinched. Evangeline followed with a luminous non-denial. Strategies evolve, she said. Transparency was always the goal. She did not look at me. She looked at the red light on a camera that was not supposed to be there and smiled as if it ate from her hand. Counsel tried to turn the morning into a nap. He spoke of thresholds and safe harbors and words that make money drowsy. I read him back into human. You hit a switch inside a kiss. You planned a photo to flip it. Noor's thread slid into the room like weather. Phones hummed. Directors tilted screens. The chair frowned at his own reflection and saw a man the city had learned to name. A worker rep cleared her throat by the back wall, and the sound was the smartest thing in the room. Aiden opened his mouth and for once did not sell a bridge to a river. We rescind the clause that converts affection into consent, he said. Today. Both languages. We commit supervotes into a trust that requires worker pay and independent review before anything moves. We repay any money that tried to dress rumor as strategy. We open an audit with names this board does not own. It was not a speech. It was a short list written in clean ink. He slid a stamped schedule to counsel as if sliding a plate across a table. Counsel paled, then read. The chair weighed the math of daylight against the math of next quarter and decided for sunlight because Noor's thread had made shade impossible. Theo lifted a hand. His voice softened to mercy that never pays rent. You are chasing applause, he warned. Careful now. We bleed value if we let the street dictate law. I pointed at the left column. In this version, the street is not dictating. You are. You turn people into a proof tool. You are about to unturn it. The chair called the vote, bored like a man about to give up a vice so he can live long enough to enjoy a different one. Hands rose. Some late. Some eager. Some with the reluctance of bodies who have been taught their wrists belong to other people. The count carried. The clause died. The room changed temperature. You could feel it in the carpet, a humming underfoot like a server learning a new song. Counsel scribbled. The worker rep let her shoulders drop by half an inch. Evangeline stood so still the silk forgot to move. Theo smiled without his eyes. He is always planning. He is never late to his own betrayals. Aiden signed the move that locked his control behind a trust the workers could open. His pen made a small sound, a polite syllable of history. He did not look at the camera. He looked at me. He kept it short. Thank you for translating the harm. I kept it shorter. Thank you for fixing the verb. Stamps hit paper. Copies slid. The junior assistant with brave eyes carried the stack like a newborn through a hall of wolves and lived. We left the room by the service corridor where the truth hangs its coat. The elevator hummed an honest note. In the lobby, the guard who loves old soul songs lifted 2 fingers like a prayer that does not brag. Outside, the rain had finally chosen to commit. Umbrellas opened. The city stalled for breath. My phone buzzed. The clerk who still reads in paper. Bring the orders. The judge is in at 9. We crossed the sidewalk with the speed of people who had learned to stop running. A black car slid to the curb with the choreography of a trap. The rear door opened. Evangeline stepped out holding an envelope the color of winter. Her ring was a sun that had forgotten how to warm. Not today, she said. Smile like a blade. Temporary order. She lifted the envelope and the rain decided to make it shine. Behind her, Theo rounded the hood with a second folder and a mouth that had learned too many easy victories. Aiden drew breath to speak. I tightened my grip on the papers that still smelled like ink and heat and stepped toward the courthouse door. The bailiff reached for the handle. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass, and a voice on the other side said my name like a verdict that could still be translated into something human if I got to it first. The bailiff cracked the door, and the courthouse breathed out coffee and old paper. Inside, the clerk who still reads by touch rather than trend lifted her head when she heard my name and waved us forward like a woman saving seats at a church we had not earned. Evangeline stood to my left in gray silk that refuses to wrinkle. Theo stood to my right with a folder already bored of hiding. Counsel spread 2 stacks on the rail, 1 tender and 1 cruel. Aiden stood beside me, not behind, not ahead, a stance that meant the room would see our weather whether it liked it or not. Judge Molina entered with a gaze that could iron a shirt at 50 paces. We rose. She sat. She was not interested in becoming content. She wanted verbs. Counsel for the clause spoke first, voice soft and winter. Emergency relief, he said. Temporary restraint against publication of proprietary language. Prevention of ongoing reputational harm. I translated without sound. He meant gag. He meant kneel. Our counsel put the 2 columns on the easel, French on the left where honesty is a legal requirement, English on the right where implication makes a living. He did not polish the words. He let them sit like knives on a tray. Judge Molina leaned in. She read the French line twice, lips moving, a habit that belongs to people who do not trust paper alone. She shifted to the English and frowned the way a person frowns when a witness changes stories mid-sentence. Then she looked at me. Is this faithful? She asked. Yes, Your Honor, I said. In French it says consent. In English it says unity. In French it lists images and broadcast as proof. In English that proof is gone. Theo's jaw flexed. Evangeline's ring found a light that had not been invited and threw it anyway. Aiden's hand closed into an invisible fist and then opened again, a man teaching his own body patience in public. Judge Molina tapped the easel with a pen that had outlived a decade of men like these. A clause that converts performance into consent, she said slowly, is suspect even when it pretends to be poetry. The motion to gag is denied. The public interest is not a toy. As for your rescission, she nodded at our stack, bring me clean language in both tongues. If I smell perfume in either, we start over. She read the draft with the speed of a woman who hates wasting mornings. She crossed out 3 coy words with strokes that felt like rain coming. She initialed the margin. She stamped. The sound was small and final. The rumor tool died on paper with a thud that will ring for a long time. Evangeline rose with grace that was almost brave. She tried regret on her mouth, and it fit like a borrowed ring. Strategies evolve, she said, smooth. We will learn with the city. Her eyes slid to me and mispronounced my name, delicate and deliberate. A cut dressed as a curtsy. Judge Molina did not look up, but the corner of her mouth tightened like a woman who had heard that music before. Theo advanced one step, folder lifted like a weak shield. "We request a stay pending appeal," he said. He meant stall. He meant bleed me dry. "Denied," Judge Molina said, already reaching for the next file on her docket. "Take your paper and leave my morning in peace." Outside, rain stitched thin silver lines between umbrella and curb. The press clotted under the awning, hungry and damp. The junior assistant with brave eyes appeared with the stamped copies held high like a small flag that belongs to people who earn their names. He handed them to me, not to Aiden, not to counsel. The paper warmed in my hands. It felt like work rather than a wish. Theo timed his approach for the moment the cameras remembered to breathe. He leaned in with a smile built to forgive sins he had not confessed. "You have your spectacle," he said under the crowd noise. "Enjoy the hour. The market punishes saints by dinner." I did not look at him. I lifted the order toward the microphones because daylight loves ink. "In French," I said, "the clause is rescinded. In English, the same. In Spanish, the same. No more rumor tool. No kiss as consent. A woman's mouth is not collateral." Evangeline stepped into frame for one last rebrand. She perched her voice on gentle and aimed it like a dart. "We thank Lena for her service to clarity," she said. "We will take it from here." Aiden did not let it land. He took the mic gently and said 10 words that sounded paid with his own breath. "We were wrong. She made us read. We fix it now." He did not say my name. He did not borrow me as a prop. He gave the sentence to the street and moved aside. It is a small thing. It is the difference. The room that is never a room, the city, decided to allow a sigh. Phones lowered by degrees. The nurse on the bus nodded like a woman who had been waiting to hear an adult sentence since nightfall. A comment thread somewhere drowned and was not missed. We drifted from the cameras the way people leave a chapel after a wedding they did not entirely trust. Aunt Mari texted a single word that tasted like soup. "Home." Her kitchen smelled like cumin and rain. The kettle wheezed. The table remembered elbows. She hugged me hard enough to set my ribs in their right places and pressed her palm to Aiden's cheek as if he were a nephew who needed a story more than a lecture. He sat without asking where. He took his phone out and flipped it face down without drama. He looked at the towel, the chipped bowl, the plant on the sill that refuses to die, and then at me. "Translate this," he said, and the sentence did not try to buy me. "I will not ask for you until I can say sorry in patterns you can count in daylight. I will end the engagement and do it clean. I will pay what I owe without applause. I will carry the work like a habit, not a headline." He swallowed. Then he tried in Spanish with care that made my throat ache. "No voy a pedir nada hasta que pueda ser constant." He added quiet French with a rough edge that told me he had looked up the verbs for once. Je vais être régulier, pas spectaculaire. Aunt Mari wiped the counter with the same motion she uses when a big emotion tries to flood a small room. She looked at me. Her eyes said a thing the city would never trend. "Choose the quiet that keeps you whole." I took a breath that tasted like cardamom and newsprint. "No speeches," I said. "Stack choices. 3 months. Daylight. No Theo. No rumor. No ring until the verbs learn to stand upright." He nodded. He did not rush to promise the moon. He offered a smaller sky. "Tonight at the Workers' Center," he said. "The trust papers. The audit list. No cameras. Only names. I will sit, not speak, unless asked." The kettle screamed. Aunt Mari set 3 cups and a plate of bread that had been forgiven twice. We ate without posting it. For 10 minutes the world shrank to heat and breath and the sense that we had stepped off a stage we did not build. My phone buzzed on the edge of the sink, impatient and pale. Noor. The thread had survived the night and learned to walk. She sent a link with no caption, which is her way of kissing a forehead and pointing at a fire. A new account had appeared while we were reading paper under good light. It wore a name that sounded like a kitchen table and a profile that looked like sympathy. It had posted a clean slab of text with 3 screenshots and a headline. The architect of the rumor engine was never the board, it read. It was the translator from the lobby. Look at the headers. Look at the times. She fed the city what she later pretended to expose. Theo's signature appeared in the corner of one image, a rookie mistake masked as a flourish. The second shot showed a chopped email with my name in the meta line where a forward would sit. The third was a calendar screenshot from a free account that had dragged the dates one day to the right, so a lie could look like a pattern. Noor's message followed, fast. Careful. They have your name in the frame. I can pull the EXIF on the second shot, but the first will already be everywhere. I need the raw headers from your phone now to prove the timeline. A knock landed on Aunt Mari's door with the politeness of a wolf. One firm rap. Another. The kind that announces paperwork rather than violence and somehow feels worse. Aiden stood and then stopped, asking with his eyes. Aunt Mari nodded once and moved to the handle with her broom leaned where it always leans, a quiet guard. Through the glass, a courier's cap blurred the rain. Behind him, a second shape in a city jacket held a clipboard like a verdict. Not press. Not a fan. Not Theo. Official enough to chill the tea. The courier lifted a flat envelope made of heavy cream and slid a receipt under his thumb to protect his name from our anger. My own name was written on the front in a hand that had practiced neatness for courtrooms. Lena Alvarez. The city paused in my throat. I took the envelope because fear is only polite for a second and then it eats your hands. Inside, a single page sat on the kind of paper that believes in itself. Subpoena for records. Produce devices. Appear at 9 tomorrow. Failure will be punished. At the bottom, a line added in blue ink that did not belong to a printer and did not need a microphone. Bring the phone that filmed your first mic drop. Bring the backups. Bring the truth you say you love. The courier cleared his throat. The second shape behind him shifted, bored. Rain hissed at the sill. Aunt Mari set her palm flat on the table to keep the room from floating away. Aiden looked at me, not with pity, not with rescue, with the steady face of a man who has finally learned to ask how to help rather than where to stand. I held the paper. I felt the edge bite my thumb. I tasted the iron of a small cut. And somewhere under the window, my phone lit with Noor's last message of the hour. They are about to drop a clip that sounds like your voice saying yes to the kiss. It is not you. I can prove it. But you need to be faster than the lie.